We're sitting here in the Zendo or in your meditation room or your hallway, wherever you practice meditation, chicken, dada. We're sitting here and just observing what continues to move. And we do that by holding very still without being rigid, but holding very, very still. And that way, that which moves in the six sense fields, including the mind, becomes very vivid so that we can be aware of it. This is about awareness, not about thinking or concluding or anything other than just observing what arises in the mind stream. Just observe. Just observe. Make no comment. Good evening. Those of you in the Zendo, please come and gather in front of the altar. And those of you on Zoom, please turn toward your computer screen, and thank you. This evening's Dharma talk is titled Form is Suchness, and I will try to describe what those words point to. But before I do that, I would like to say that we're still a ways away from our goal, and we will be unveiling a Giving Tuesday. That's with a capital G and a capital T. Is that correct? December 3rd. And that is a campaign that is it starting then?
It's only Giving Tuesday. It's on Giving Tuesday. So we'll start talking about it on Friday.
So we have a little warning. That's good. Please consider us in your holiday and end of year giving plans, if you make plans in that area. So thank you for all that you've been helping us with, all of you so far. Some of you help a great deal. Some of you may not do so much, but I'm sure you're all doing what you can. And an important thing that you're giving is your attention to this teaching. You're here, you're listening to this teacher, listening to the interaction between this teacher and this community or Sangha. Very important. Even if the question is being asked is not one that you would ask, still that interaction could be very helpful if you do what? Observe. Just receive it. It is not necessary to understand this. I'm not saying that you won't understand it, but to force some kind of conceptual or regular materialistic understanding on something is to block out the fundamental intention. Excuse me, which is to see the truth yourself, not to believe in something. Not about believing in things or disbelieving, and certainly not about ignoring. So this talk title has some problems with it because of the idea of form and what that is, and the idea of suchness and what that is endeavoring to point out. Just that word is somewhat difficult, not something we use in everyday language. But suchness is just the thusness or the as it is quality of something. We need that kind of a word so that when we look at something, we can receive just what it is as it appears. As it appears. And by doing that, we eventually see what it is. What it is. So we need to look at the forms, and we may need to, for a long period of time, watch the forms and watch. We might not catch the instance in which we add on to the form, but we're doing that. Whatever shows up, we think about. Whatever shows up, we judge it. Whatever shows up, we modify it, or we interpret it, we analyze it, or we just a simple word, what does that mean? Or the simple statement, I don't understand. As soon as you say, I don't understand, you've actually stopped your wisdom mind. It's not that you should go the other direction and say, I understand everything. It isn't some kind of fantasy world that we're trying to create. What are we trying to do? We're trying to see that we create. We're trying to see that we invent. We're trying to see that we dream things up, that we live in a world of our making. When I say our, I'm saying that consciousness that has taken on the identity of an ours or a mine or a me or I, and invents that over there to be good, or that over there to not be so good, or this over there to be not important or very important, or I need more of that, or I need less of that. We could go on and on and on with all of those kinds of words that are basically talking about the three poisons: passion, aggression, ignorance, grasping, rejecting, and shutting down. So this is why the awareness practice, the sitting practice of meditation, taught in different ways. The way I prefer to teach this is shikantaza, just precisely this. So as soon as you sit down and hold still, whatever is in front of you, probably a wall, but could be a closet door. Just precisely that. Nothing more, nothing less. But the awareness part of it is seeing how, even though the initial situation of looking might be just that, but we want something else. We don't want that, or that's not enough, or that's too simple, or it's just a closet door. But this is too ordinary. We're looking for some special insight, understanding. This is what the ego wants. The ego wants to munch on something profound, munch on something more wisdom-like, more emptiness. So the form that you're seeing, and you may have to look at this form, whatever this form coming up in your mind stream, could be any number of things. Could be jealousy, could be anger, could be dread, could be claustrophobia, could be any kind of a form. Whatever shows up, don't push it away. Don't validate it or explain it, but just receive it as it is, just as it is. And if you do that, you'll notice it tends to morph this way and that way. It doesn't really hold still to be observed particularly. The fundamental seeing of as it is, suchness or thusness. The word tathagata means, as I understand it, one who comes thusly, one who just comes just like that. Doesn't seem to be a past there, doesn't seem to be a future, it doesn't seem to be anything other than just this. The teachers of the past, including the Buddha and all the other lineage holders down through the centuries, if they see this, if they see what was being pointed at and they endeavor to teach, are pointing to that, are trying to get you as a student, if you are a student, to look right in front of you without accepting it. That shuts down. Don't accept. Without rejecting it, that shuts down. And without turning away, distracting yourself from it. I've been talking like this for at least 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. That's what I'm here to encourage you to do. And that the way that shows up for any person here is going to be different than someone else, someone whose particular way of confusing themselves, or to put it bluntly, covering up their Buddha nature, covering up their awakened mind with a bunch of claptrap based on hope and fear, is going to be different than others. But there are similarities there. You can usually detect some aspect or qualities of the three poisons of pushing away, shutting down, covering up, renaming, reclassifying, analyzing, concluding. This is what a conclusion looks like in consciousness. Once you conclude, the receiving or investigating of something tends to, if not disappear altogether, at least get quite modified. And there won't necessarily be some kind of result or some kind of proof that you're getting somewhere or you're accomplishing something. It could show up maybe the other way around, of because you just spent 20, 30 years or whatever, or maybe lifetime after lifetime, shutting away, turning away, stopping, trying to, not willing to not willing to lead the life that is presented to you day after day, moment after moment. Receive that. Don't miss your life and opt for some modification or some other way of doing it. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the university or make some choices or some decisions about different things that you could do in your life. Of course, you should do all of that also. But you could spend some time holding very still and watching that whole thinking process come and go, reach, reject, and shut down. Just observe that and notice over time. And this is what the ego mind, that part of the consciousness that thinks that there is someone who is there thinking and thinks there's someone who has feelings, a subjectivity that is somehow valid. If you're inspired by these teachings, where there's some inspiration possibly from what I'm saying, or some inspiration just by your study of the Buddha's Dharma over the time, over years, and you already are a meditator, you've been meditating for a long time, you want to see what is being pointed at by the Buddha or by other teachers, Dogen Zenji, Vasubandhu, Huineng, just to name a couple. Then you can see that. But you have to find a way to limit your movement. Hold still so that you can see the fundamental area of the consciousness that is constantly moving and chattering and commenting, analyzing, judging, concluding, in order to reinforce that part of the consciousness that thinks there is someone and there is not anyone. I'm not saying that it's not possible to possibly see there's no one in some kind of other awareness practice, maybe, possibly. But the way it looks here, it's unlikely, because the movement any kind of movement tends to take the energy of the awareness that just receives and moves it into awareness of the movement. Not wrong, it's just kind of an energy sink, you might say. So hold still, watch, and train your mind to see clearly. So that there's no guarantee, but there's a possibility that you could realize this. You could stop the spinning around, or you could see that the spinning around, the pushing, the pulling, the shutting down is unreal, and that you will no longer fight with it and try to be someone else, be a better person, or any of that other propaganda of ego. Improve, don't improve. So the form, the thing, the solidity part could be the solidity of the form, and it could also be a form in consciousness. It could be a sound. It could be a thought that arises about a particular thing, or a series of ideas or concepts moving around something you're curious about or are endeavoring to investigate. Could be that. Look very closely at that without adding on to the investigation, without stopping the investigation. If that investigation or that curiosity about that is coming up spontaneously, don't add to it, don't necessarily become more curious, and don't validate the curiosity. Also, don't object to the curiosity. Take no position. And seeing, this is an important part of it. Anyone else sitting over there that I can't see? I'm kind of curious about it. This is the important thing about it. What was I going to say? You know? If you see it, you won't know it. Because the actual seeing, what it is that you're seeing, is there's no one left to, as a credential of an identity of some part of consciousness that knows that. So therefore the knowing has become so powerful, so, to use fancy words, transcendent, that you don't really know, you don't know an other. The classical description of this is called empty of other. Everything out there that looks like something else or other, the actual perception of that is empty of that. So it's difficult to take words and concepts and ideas and descriptions and align those in such a way that they evoke something in your mind, hopefully, if there is any hope, but hopefully that will inspire you to just look very simply at whatever shows up. That means that intense irritation with Claude Rains down the road, or Melvin Kosnowski, you all know him. But irritation, or with anyone, to just look at the irritation rather than leave the irritation for who caused it. As soon as you do that, then it's not wrong. It's just that you're actually buying into that dude ranch, where you're trying to learn to do this, or learn to do that, or learn to do this, or learn to get ahead, don't fall behind, and you got to get a handle on things, or I got to figure this out. There's a mudra for you. I got to figure this out. What is that? Rodin's The Thinker. You know, Rodin, I don't think he ever made anyone sitting in samadhi like this. I think that was left to, what was that famous sculptor? They shall remain nameless. What was it we just saw, and what Chisho is on his journey around Japan? We just saw he took a video. Some of you were on our, was it social media? Sokukoji social media he took literally hundreds and hundreds of really beautiful sculptures of monks in different poses and positions, and sitting and standing and holding on to things and so on. It's quite amazing. I don't remember the name of the temple, do you? Doesn't matter. You can look on there and see that. But pretty amazing. That's a journey. I think he's almost at the end of that. 800 miles or something of walking. Chisho. Quite the athlete, that guy. So it's important to look at the form without knowing what it is. Have a willingness to look at the form and let yourself be lost in that consciousness that is receiving. Because if the receiver starts to come apart, that which is being observed doesn't do anything. But it will start to do something to the illusion of the observer if you fiddle with it, if you judge it. And so the path quality, the ground, of course, is suffering, but the path quality is seeing how you can't control that. You can't control your projections onto it. I don't like that. I don't like what she said. I don't like what they're doing. It's intense. You don't have to stop that. That's why it's such amazing information. If you hear what I'm saying, what do you have to do? You have to have a willingness to be, and let that emotion just flood you. I don't teach self-control. There isn't one. So stop it. You don't have to control anything. This doesn't give you the right to go out and break windows in the neighborhood to prove how liberated you are, how you're not concerned about anything anymore. You do whatever you want. No, it's better than that. It's worse than that. It's better than that because you can do this right in the middle of your heart. You can see this yourself. Not easy to do that. There will be no credential. You will not get congratulated. You will not be the greatest bodhisattva who ever lived. You won't even, that whole word bodhisattva on the path of the Mahayana, if you realize that, it just won't have any meaning anymore, because there isn't anyone that can be a bodhisattva. And there's no one to be saved. So liberate yourself. Suchness, just suchness. It's right in front of you. Stop ignoring it. It's showing up in your mind in the form of your passion, your aggression, and you're shutting down your ignorance. That's what it is. You don't have to be someone else. You get to actually be the life that showed up in whatever year it was you were born. It's just gone through all kinds of changes and gets convoluted, and then it turns upside down, and then somebody does this, some other thing happens over here and changes this, and then you think there's some hope for something better, and then there's fear of this. You know what I'm talking about. It's a regular cartoon. It's a soap opera in your own life. And you can just right now, today, this afternoon, this evening, tomorrow morning, 3 days from now, when you're beginning your morning meditation, if you do such a thing, or if you're going into retreat, whatever's happening, you can actually just be right there. It's not like a be here now kind of thing. It's not a mantra or something. It's just however it is, however you feel. If this begins to show up, not as an occurrence, but just as self-existing, the Tibetans have a word, rangjung, for that. It's just this. There isn't anything else. It's just this. It's empty of everything else. So if you're looking at it, there isn't anything else. There's not even an observer of it. Don't believe. I'm not saying I need to believe this or you should believe Sokuzan. No, believe, but listen, consider it. Look at your own mind. The next time you walk into your bedroom and close the door and look at when that door closes, look at that door. There isn't anything in the world like that. There isn't even a world. You have to do it with awareness. You can't do it with thinking, elaborating, analyzing it. If I had to do this with analysis and memory and remembering what happened in the 12th century, not that I don't remember a little bit, but if I had to do it through remembering everything, I couldn't do this. I'd have to go get Sokuzan to do that, and he's in retreat. Or maybe one of you guys. You? No? How about you? No? So I'm not making fun or making light of scholarship. Without scholarship, I would not be sitting here. I needed all the help I could get all the years I was practicing before I found myself sitting up here and talking in such a way as if I knew something. I don't know anything. I don't know anything else. There isn't any else. You can see this in the midst of tomorrow afternoon when you're with your friends or possibly with somebody that's not so friendly. You can see it right then. You can see it right in your heart, which is right in front of you. There is no inside or outside left. You can do this yourself, but you probably will not be able to do it unless you're doing a great deal of sitting meditation. Sit down, hold still, train the mind to see what shows up, thinking, feeling, emotion, memory, whatever, what goes away without accepting it. Don't accept, without rejecting and without shutting down. And of course, as I just said a little while ago, not being able to do that and seeing what a failure you are is the path. And that's where the ego, the self-centered part of the mind, starts to come apart. You cannot get rid of ego. It's an illusion. And it's very convincing. It's so convincing it we're so convinced of our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions that we're right. We'll actually hurt other people. We might not hit them, but we might be very, very disrespectful to that person's confusion. In other words, just the opposite of compassion. You have to receive this incredible world. Confusion and awe. Everything needs to come in your front door. And no, I'm not saying you need to unlock your door and throw it open and let all of the squirrels and everything else run inside your house. I'm not saying that. I'm saying here's the gate. The Dharma gate is here. I can take some questions if there are some.
Choose a million. If the lamination is so quick that it just looks like the case, is it
Yes.
important for me to see the machinations?
Yes, very, very, very good question. You can't ask that. You can't ask that question unless you're listening to what I'm saying. So it is a lamination. Something shows up and we don't see the suchness because we're looking for something else. And so we invent something else to put on it so that that part of consciousness that still thinks there is somebody that's in danger, that needs protecting, has something out here that is either a friend or an enemy or a neutral, just to put it simply. And so, yes, the sitting practice of meditation will help, excuse me, over time. No guarantees. It may never happen. Can't guarantee something like that. That's mundane path, but we're not going to do that. But it's through the sitting practice of meditation, which you've been doing for many years, you're slowly, and I mean with a capital S, slowly, you're slowly watching the way you see something and then you think about it. You see something and you have feelings about it. You see something and all of those projections or little mini outflows. You might not open your mouth, you might not hook up your vocal cords, you might not hold your hand up or do what I did, might not do that. But there's little tiny outflows that go out to promote that in front of you, which is in front of you is the illusion, because there isn't anyone. I mean, there's a body here and there's something happening over there, but that's just the illusion showing up in its polarity. So it's necessary to train your mind so that your awareness becomes more and more clear and precise about what's happening. It becomes very, very precise, but the precision doesn't come in the form of seeing what that is. Like that's a kotsu or that's a tabletop. It doesn't get down to the name part of it. It goes right on through the name, the description, the validation in time and space to its fundamental nature, which is not separate from consciousness. It's consciousness only. So you don't see consciousness. What you see has no object quality to it, and it has no subject quality of something looking at something. So therefore, one of the teachings that is talked about, especially with Nagarjuna, is things are empty. Everything is empty of what you think it is or presume it is or project onto it. Empty of other. Go ahead.
Well, geez, is the lamination suchness?
Yes, but you have to see it. Eventually, everything is suchness. Eventually, your fist going through a tabletop, though you haven't done that, suchness, but you have to see it. Someone may watch you do that and see that it's suchness. You may do that and think that you're losing your temper. I'm completely open for questions from anyone here. You have to realize who you are as you are, not someone who somehow no longer gets mad or no longer gets depressed or no longer. No, longer. Be genuine. Be genuine. You can do this. Further questions, please don't hesitate. Yes.
Divine, do we see suchness gradually, or is it a sudden realization?
I don't know if the word sudden or gradual would necessarily apply. I feel that when you first have the traditional word as glimpses of that, they seem to have a contrast between something you were seeing and then you're not sure what it was, because now you're filling it up with ideas about what you saw. And eventually is another relative word we need to use, but we're living in the illusion of time and space, so we have to use the words that are used there. But eventually it's just ordinary. You see it all the time, and it's not a credential, and it's not a conclusion. You've not accomplished anything, but it never goes away. Why doesn't it go away? You know what I'm going to say next.
You're not separate from it.
Close. Why can't
It never came into existence.
it never appeared? This is a spiritual path. Not the mundane path. You actually have transcended your body, your fingernails, your dirty boots from walking out in the manure. You've transcended it. You've gone beyond it. When I say gone beyond, there was nothing to go beyond. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever occurred except that which showed up as a human form is no longer locked down by belief in its human form or belief in any form or disbelief in any form or ignoring any form. It's just this, as it is, suchness. This form is just suchness. Walking suchness, talking suchness, thinking suchness. Don't believe me, but consider it. Consider it in your mind. You can do this yourself. You might need someone to encourage you. That's what I'm here to do. I can't explain it to him. I'm not a scholar. Bring a scholar in, I'll shut up and we'll listen to them. As I said before, that doesn't mean that we don't need scholars. I really needed the help of Nagarjuna, and studying Vasubandhu has been extremely helpful for me to study those concepts that describe something that I'm looking at. Because I can't put that into words. Even though I might be trying now, I certainly can't do what Vasubandhu did. Insofar as the translations are close to what he was saying in Sanskrit.
Hi.
What would you like to ask about?
So goodbye. Earlier you were talking about emotions being form. Is
I
just
did.
the texture of an emotion form?
Yes. Texture is just a quality of the form, but the form itself may not have a quality.
Is there anything that isn't form,
Yes.
such as?
The space in which the form arises.
Is that the only thing that isn't form?
I don't know. I haven't checked closely. So far, that seems to be the way it is.
I guess I'm trying to understand. I mean, form shows up everywhere in our practice and in the Dharma. and
Yes.
how
What is it you want to know?
What is it pointing to if it's really just saying everything that shows up?
What kind of question is that?
How is it helpful? How
Why is
that
everybody smiling?
concept helpful?
Oh, yeah, he's smiling. How is a concept helpful?
How is the concept of form helpful?
So that we can have some structure to work with, just like the sitting down and meditating is kind of a physical form of the body, holding still, so that we can observe the illusion more closely. You could maybe get a glimpse of the emotion or the illusion, excuse me, moving around, but it's more likely you just believe in it. Whereas if you hold very still, it starts to become suspicious what's happening in the mind stream. Is that what you're asking about, or am I missing what you want to know? If you just say what you want to know, then it'll save us a lot of time.
Um.
Good.
Maybe I have to come back to it.
Come back to what it is you want to know.
Mhm.
How do you know where it's at?
I don't, that's why I have to
So
wait
if you
for it
have
to
to
come
come
back.
back to it, means you've gone past what you wanted to know. So where are you at now? Is there something, you're in something you already know?
I haven't gone anywhere, but it wandered off.
You mean kind of like a lost armadillo?
Yeah,
Okay. We'll go find it. How's the cat food industry?
the armadillo took it.
The armadillo took the cat food.
Nobody else wanted it.
We had a cat food mystery here. But I was just using that opportunity to just see if somebody had some answers around that cat food. Anyway, further questions regarding, yes,
Future Valley, is saying form pointing to the same thing as saying phenomena?
Yes, the way we're talking about it, but the phenomenon can be just a form, just very simple. Nothing very complicated, even before you actually know what the name of it is. I mean, you may know the name, but it may not discolor or take away or modify too much the immediacy or the suchness of the form. That's why it's so difficult to set up some kind of a standard where the way you do this is this way and you can't do that. You can't think while you're looking at something or some kind of other discursive idea around what you're observing. Just observe, be aware, watch what moves. And the first situation that when it shows up, that's it. There's no elseness. There's no other thing or no next to it. And the way you'll begin to recognize that is you won't know what it is.
Valley. You said it's just that, whatever it is that you're looking at. But if we're looking at that, won't it just continuously change?
Yes,
So,
but it's an illusion. So it may change, it may not. You're no longer hoodwinked by it. You're no longer magnetized by anything that arises. Intense emotions, feelings. It starts out maybe just visual, then it becomes maybe auditory. Then it can start to show up in the mind stream as concepts, ideas, beliefs, opinions. It seems to be different with each person. And in this case, at least right now, I'm only this person. So I only have my own limited understanding of that. But it seems to be in, I see it in other people what they're looking for. They're avoiding. They're actually looking for something, and yet at the same time, they're avoiding it because it's in front of them. In front of you. It's in front of you, it's in front of everyone in here. Right in front of you. Yeah.
if whatever we're looking at is always changing, is even calling it that putting too much of a constraint on it?
I understand what you're saying. It's a very good question, but I would have to say no, because the area that you're speculating about, which has some truth to it, but the truth that it has is that that's how convincing the illusion is. It's convincing. Nothing actually occurs. It just looks like it. And it's got the whole world tied up in knots, fighting with each other, hurting each other, fussing, fiddling around and fussing with things and not realizing that this whole situation that we're in is an illusion that we are deluded by, thinking it's real, thinking our emotions are real, our thoughts, our memories, our this and that, just a constant moving around. Yeah.
Sokuzan, does form imply that there's an inherent structure or shape to something?
No,
Thank you, that was helpful.
thank you. That was wonderful.
I said that was helpful.
Oh,
It was also wonderful.
yes,
Oh, Divine, when we're caught up in an emotion
yes.
or thought, can we return to suchness? Can we invite suchness?
No way. No, you can't return. You can't invite suchness. You can do a little bit of that as far as being aware of what's happening. If you're sitting in the Zendo, or you're sitting like here and where you usually sit right there, and you notice your mind, you're out to lunch somewhere, daydreaming about something, and you might just, your visual consciousness might show up, or a dog might bark or something. It brings you back. And you realize that you've actually been somewhere else in some kind of a, so that kind of thing is part of the practice, part of the path of training the mind to see more clearly. But you're talking about, can you tune into suchness or something? No, suchness is just something that starts to, it's just something you begin to understand, but you can't do it. Now, the reason I'm talking about it by saying form is suchness is to get you to look at that wall, to get you to look at the back of your hand as you're picking up your fork, to actually receive that as it is, as it is. The name of this meditation is as it is. It's the same as suchness, as it is. Not just as it appears, because that can be filled with all kinds of projections and presumptions and elaborations about what is showing up. But as it is it can appear lots of different ways, but as it actually is beyond how it appears, or other than how it appears. And at the same time, this is why it's so difficult. It's not separate from what was just said. So it's not something else. The otherness does not show up in such a way to affirm or reestablish belief in right and wrong or enlightenment and confusion. Those two has been talked about in the teaching called co-emergent, that confusion and wisdom arise together. We're not separate from each other. Not a teaching that you can wrap your mind around or think about, something that you have to realize. And if you realize that, there will be no one who realizes it. There'll be no credential. It will not happen at a point in time. I'm not saying that some teachers don't talk about a time when they were asleep and a time when they suddenly awoke because of, a hickory nut falling on their head or something. I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't necessarily use that as an example. I can take a few more questions if there are some. Yes.
Future value. You said we have to sit a lot. How much do we have to sit?
Sit 5 times a day. Now, how long?
How long?
How much time you got?
Not much.
Well, sit half of that and sleep the other half. And then in between going from sleep to the cushion, grab a bite to eat. Of course, apologize for the silliness, but I'm saying sit as much as you can. Each person is so different. And the other thing I would say beyond that, or to maybe further go into that a little further, it might be a great deal of difference when you're sitting and facing a wall and say when I'm sitting and facing the wall, or Michelle or anyone else, that what's happening in your mind. And sure, it's important to sit for an hour a day or more. It's important to block sit once a week or sit for 4 hours in the afternoon or morning or something, if you can. But we also have jobs. Some of us have children, have other obligations going on. The job could be really stressful. So not saying that meditation is necessarily, the way I teach it, is necessarily going to be relaxing. Maybe. But it also can take you deeper into that stress. So sit as much as you can. And you'll know whether you're sitting enough. Quite often people say, if I ask someone how much you're sitting, they say not enough. That's kind of a standard response. So sit as much as you can. If I were going to average it out, try to sit an hour a day out of the 24, should be able to find an hour, even if you're working a full-time job. Right, Mielka? You sit an hour a day? You do. And you work 40-hour week. So I'm not going to go around and check everybody's sitting schedule, but I'm just saying it's possible. And I'm not saying that with your dynamic or anyone else, some people don't get enough sleep. Some people are having anxiety situations that are just untraceable. Don't know what's causing that or where that's coming from. And that person may not be able to sit as much. But as I've said, hundreds and hundreds of times, is not about the success. It's about the intention. And someone's intention to sit, even though they might be only sitting for 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes every 3 days, it's the intention that's important, not the accomplishment. I'm just taking a long time to really see how important that is. The intention is so important. Some people are in such dire straits, emotionally, or however you want to say it, that the downside is when they sit, they're worse, they feel worse. But the upside is that shows you that they're actually looking at, in that 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're actually looking at this, the obstructions that has gotten them into that kind of a dire straits in the first place. So they're actually, I wouldn't say you're going to, or I'm going to call it, or you could note that, oh, we're making progress because we feel so crappy. Don't mean to go that direction with it. I'm just saying there's something to that, being able to really sit and look at it no matter what. And also know that when you had enough and you need to get up and go for a walk, take a break, read a book, go lay down on the couch.
Devine, I was just gonna ask, how does intention sharpen the awareness?
I recently was talking to someone who just can't hardly sit at all, a couple of minutes. And I said, okay, I hear you. Let's sit for a couple of minutes. I said, and I actually showed this person, I said, sit down, hold very still, sit in front of something where nothing is moving, like a wall or a closet door or an altar if you happen to have one. Can't recall what they did. And I said, strike the bell. "30 seconds. That's intention. Maybe you can't sit for an hour. Maybe you can't sit for 15 minutes, but you can sit for 30 seconds or a minute. And what's happening is, regarding your question, what's happening, you're strengthening the intention to meditate, to sit still, to train your mind. You sit down, you hold still, you strike that gong, and you get up and you go about your day, or possibly do it in the morning and at night. That's only adds up to what, 1 minute? Pretty difficult for the ego mind to argue too much with that. But I'm here to say that that's very, very important, to strengthen that intention, to get to the cushion, hold still. And then when that happens, just watch what moves, if anything moves at all. And then this person I'm talking to about this, because of and I wouldn't say this is not a standard, wouldn't do this with everybody necessarily, but this person, because of what I'm sensing from talking to them, they need to just do that no matter what. And don't add on 3 minutes. Don't add on 10 minutes just because they can. Because it's about awareness. It's not about accomplishing anything. Sit down, strike the gong. I think that this person, I told him, I think 2 minutes. Sit down for 2 minutes. And just because you feel like you could sit longer, no, don't do it. Hold right to that. Hold that form. Hold the form. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, they're going to come back, and time's almost up for that. We'll come back and see how that went. And then together we'll talk about it. And I say, okay, now let's do 10 minutes. Work with that person. But I can't say much more about them, but I'm saying their way of being, of dealing with the knots in their mind stream are very, very difficult. And maybe some of you recognize, because this is not the only person I've talked to in that way. Some people I've even told to stop meditating. People show up in different ways. Some people actually stop. Some people say, I can't do that. I don't want to stop. Or, say I can't, but I don't want to. They might say whatever. I trust that. I don't order people around. Well, not very much, do I? No. Do I order you around? Oh, no. Do I ever order you around? When? What did I tell you to do?
Sit a lot.
You got me there. I did say that. Yes, sit a lot. That's what Munoz said. And I have been telling her that since I met her in 1990, 91.
Something like that.
She's not gonna admit to time. Okay, is there a final question? I could always, you can just close and we can move to Utah. Yes, you have one left.
Those are giving is not.
Is this the one you're remembering that you forgot?
No, June should help me with that one.
You thank her?
I think I just did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, what's your question?
Is not separate a synonym for consciousness?
No, not separate is a concept to describe and to address that the illusion you're looking at are not a bunch of things. And the illusion you're looking at that looks like it's in motion is not moving. So it's not separate. And the separation between past and future, another separation, is untrue. The past and the future are not two different things. Night and day are not two different things. Life and death, not two different things. So not separate, not separate. So not separate is talking about that. But let's come back to your question. You're saying is not separate a synonym for consciousness? I'm checking in right now. How do you mean that?
I once asked you if a cup.
Uh-oh, the past comes to haunt me. I once asked you
I have a
if a
memory
cup
of
was,
asking you.
if the Dixie cup and a ceramic coffee cup were not separate.
Yes,
Remember that one?
that one. Because, and I asked you if that was true because they're both arising in consciousness. And I think you said yes.
You don't remember what I said?
My memory is that you said yes.
Okay. Well, if I said it, it must have some gravitas to it. No? What did you want? Was there a question there?
I want to know what not separate is pointing to. If it's more than just the matrix or the space in which things arise.
It's just saying that everything looks like it's over there and something else. This is over here and that's over there. The separations we're just flooded with this in consciousness, in our room, in our Zendo. Everything is separating from everything else in the illusion, but it's untrue. It's unreal. Everything you see is unreal. It's an illusion. Is there anyone on Zoom that has a question?
Bowing.
Yes.
What is the energy of awareness? Bowing.
I have no idea. Nice words though. Energy, awareness.
Bowing. You said that any kind of movement takes energy from awareness.
Yes.
To this, what is?
Well, that's where you're going. Okay.
Yeah.
Wish me luck. Go ahead.
So I'm referring to that energy which is taken to what is appearing.
So I'll be very literal about it. You're sitting very still and you are endeavoring to watch what moves if you're following this instruction, and what moves in the mind stream starts to slow way down. The whole speediness of the mind just starts to settle. And then we begin to see very, very subtle movements in the mind. The rudimentary consciousness showing up in the form of thoughts or possibly memories or feelings. And we can see those come and go and come and go. But if the body is moving, if we're always moving our body a little bit, then the consciousness, that the energy of the awareness that would be watching those subtleties in consciousness, that very, very tight form of prajna that is looking and not thinking, looking and not analyzing or concluding or anything, just receiving, receiving, receiving. That energy gets to do that gets, it seems, from the way it looks here, absorbed in just movement, just shifting your body a little bit. It's not that you can't do some of that. If someone seems to be very move around a lot, which I've always been very antsy as a meditator for long years. What I learned from my experience of working with my own body mind situation is to hold still for very short periods of time. And when I hold still, hold extremely still, not rigid, not tightened muscles, but relaxed. But then if you do that, then any movement you're very aware of. Every eye blink, you know about it. Every breath, you know, not because you're focusing eye blinks or focusing on the breath, but because you're just on receive. So anything that moves in consciousness, you're aware of it. You're aware that your eyes move. Most people who are meditating are so lost in their thought stream, they have no idea they're moving or that they're blinking. Is that wrong? No, that's why it takes such a long time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does the energy of awareness serve prajna?
You know, I don't talk about it that way. I mean, that's kind of an intellectual way of saying it. Or does it serve prajna? I understand what you're asking about, but I just don't describe it that way. If I were to describe it that way, or even close to that, I would say it just is that. It doesn't serve anything. It's not separate into kind of categories like that.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question.
Baby bowing.
Go.
Have you ever go to Palm stress?
If I ever went to the potty stressed,
No. Have stressed out.
do I ever get dressed up and go out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just take off my pajamas, I get on a suit, and I go out. How about you? Do you ever go anywhere?
Yeah.
Does your mom take you places?
Yeah.
Where does she take you?
My hockey practice.
Oh, hockey practice. That's good. Does she take your sister with you?
Sometimes.
Okay. How about the other times?
No.
Oh.
But my sister plays hockey too.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. How about your mom? Did she play hockey?
She's trying to learn to skate.
She's trying to skate?
Yeah.
Well, how's she doing?
Good.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say that. Okay, my friends, let's do what is it we do at the end?
Dedication.
Who is it that's going to do that?
Yoga.
Oh, Milka. Okay, thank you, Milka. So we'll dedicate the merit and then we'll go off in the dissonance for another 24 hours or something.
justice penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho Sanchi Ishihu Shison Busam Hokosa Bogo Hoja the 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
We'll reset the Zendo and continue sitting until it's time for evening service at 7:40.